Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is a fishing vessel, Miss Yolanda. We're breaching her hull. We're going down.
Well, that's why you need one of these. Hi, I'm Glenn from Aqua Lifestyle, and today we're going to talk about how important it is to have a handheld VHF on board. Anytime you're on the water, everybody should have one of these. You can't always rely on a cell phone. You can't always rely on a fixed mount VHF radio. Batteries go under, you capsize, the boat goes down quickly. This may be your only lifeline, so everybody should have one of these. We're going to talk about how to select the best one for your particular needs, features, and functions, what to look for in the radio. So let's take a look. Okay, so we've mentioned that a cell phone is just not a viable option for you on the water. You can't rely on a signal in many areas. You're not going to have a signal. It's not waterproof. It doesn't get you direct communication with other boats, Coast Guard, bridges, marinas, that kind of thing. So this really isn't recommended to rely on this as your means of communication while you're on a boat. Now, a VHF radio that checks all the boxes for what you would want in a handheld VHF and accessories that you would want for a handheld VHF included in the box is the standard HX890. Now, there are plenty of other radios out there, and there are many that have the same accessories, same kind of accessories available or in the box and have the features that this radio has from other manufacturers. Now, we're not sponsored by Standard Horizon. Just giving this as an example of a good handheld VHF that checks all the boxes of the accessories and the things that I feel are important for a handheld VHF. So let's see what we've got inside. Of course, first of all, you come across the owner's manual, and it's a pretty extensive one because this is really a feature-packed VHF. It has a lot of bells and whistles on it. This is the radio itself. Like I said, this checks all the boxes of accessories and things that I think are important, features that I think are important in a handheld VHF. This particular VHF floats, which is very important. If you pick a radio that doesn't, find a way of making it float, either with an accessory case that's available for it, tying a piece of a swim noodle to it, a cork, whatever you need to do to make it float, because in emergency situation, it slips out of your hands, drops in the water. You don't want this thing to sink like a rock. This may be your only means of communication. Now, this is a good radio because it does have a very large screen. It's got a keypad that is easy to operate at night that is backlit, so I can see the buttons very clearly, which is a really nice feature to have. It does have a full array of buttons here, including fast buttons for different menu functions up at the top here. And you have a data input here, so you can do software upgrades, upload waypoints, that kind of thing with this one. Now, this does have a GPS built into it. That's another reason I particularly like this radio. The main reason for having GPS on here is this little button back here. Now, you normally only find these on fixed mount VHFs. This is a distress button, a DSC button, digital selective calling. Emergency, you can press this button. It's going to transmit an emergency mayday signal with your MMSI number, and we'll talk about that, your MMSI number, and your position, because it has the GPS built into it. So very, very valuable feature on this radio that can get help to you very, very quickly. Now, another reason I like this style and this particular model of radio is it has a very decent sized battery. This is an 1800 milliamp hour battery. So you'll easily get 8 to 10 hours worth of use out of this battery, if not more. Of course, that's not talking on the radio all the time, and the specs that you see for different VHF radios are going to depend on different variables. You know, how long you're talking, whether you have the backlight on for any length of time, how often it's receiving a signal and broadcasting that over the speaker, your volume, all those kind of things are going to affect the length of use of a battery. But realistically, in all practical modes, a battery this size is going to last you easily a day out boating. Now, this next item is another really nice feature that I like that comes included with this radio, and to me, I like having a handheld VHF that has this option, whether it comes with it in the box or it's an accessory that you can order, and I've had this for various other handhelds that I've owned in the past. I've ordered this accessory for it. This is an alkaline battery tray. This particular one takes 5 AAA batteries. You can load them in. If you forget to charge your radio the night before, the battery runs down, you have a backup power source for it here. So you can just pop this in. So very nice feature to have. That's included in the box here. As an accessory, when you order them for this radio or other radios, it can range anywhere from about $25 to about $40, depending on the manufacturer and the battery tray. All these VHFs are going to come with some kind of belt clip. This one just slides in and locks into place, and it also comes with a little lanyard. Now, this particular style of radio has what they call a cradle or stand-up charger. Now, this little cradle, the way it works is the radio will clip into it, and then you have a plug down in the bottom here that a couple of different options for this particular radio comes with. You would plug that in and either plug it into the wall or to a 12-volt outlet. So it has to be in the cradle to charge. Now, while the radio is waterproof, the cradle and the charger are not. So they're really not designed to be mounted in a wet environment. It does come with a converter, if you need a converter, if you're using it anywhere other than the US that has AC 110, which is what this one's for. This one you just plug in the wall. You see the plug here. That plugs in the base of the cradle. You also have a 12-volt cigarette lighter plug. Next is your antenna. Now, I particularly like this antenna because it is a flexible antenna. There are some that are rigid. The flexibility of this one is nice because you throw it in a bag, an overboard bag, and with other equipment, the antenna gets bent. It's not going to damage it. It's not going to hurt it. And it holds up better over time. So, nice little flexible antenna. The antenna is not permanently mounted to the radio either, which is another feature that I like, because there are actually adapters available for these that you can screw into this mini connector here and actually attach your fixed mount VHF to get more range, because all VHF is line of sight, so wherever the top of that antenna can see is where it's broadcasting to, basically. So that's another feature. You can always have one of those little adapter cables and tie it to plug it into your fixed mount or your attached antenna on the boat. Last but not least, you have a USB connector. Now this plugs into the data port on the side here, so you can do software upgrades and other things when you connect this to your PC or laptop. What do you need to look for in a handheld VHF? Well, they can range anywhere from under $100 to well over $300 or $400, depending on what you're looking for. This particular one is a feature-packed one and runs right around the $200 mark here in the United States. Other features that are important. This particular one, if you operate it at night, the keys and the screen is nice backlit, so it's easy to operate at night. That's another feature to consider. This one has the capability of adding accessories through the jack at the top here. You can put microphones and voice-activated headsets wired into this, plugged in, wired accessories that give you a remote mic that you can clip to a lapel, a voice-activated headset, that kind of thing. So if you are crewing on a boat and wanting to talk to other people on the boat or want hands-free operation of your VHF, you can add those accessories to it. This particular one has a strobe, which you can turn on and off, so you have a little light on there should you need it. Gives you visibility in an emergency situation, and it's also programmable to give you an SOS signal, which we'll show you what that looks like. Or you can have it just strobe when this hits the water. It'll actually strobe and make it easy to find should you drop it overboard also. Now this radio also has all kinds of scanning and watch functions, so you can scan various channels. You can pick the channels that you want to scan. You can have it just flip between 2 channels if you want, monitor 16, an emergency channel and another one if you want. There's all kinds of programming capabilities with this particular radio. You can actually pull other boaters by their MMSI number. So you can pull them, see where they are, see their location with the GPS information on the screen, the latitude and longitude. You can also alert them or call to them without actually going over the regular airwaves and doing a voice call to them. This particular radio also has scrambling capabilities, so you can have scrambled messages. So if you want to hide your fishing spot but you want to talk to one of your fishing buddies and talk about where the fish are, that kind of thing, you can actually do that without other people listening in. Another nice feature this particular radio has is FM band, so you can actually listen to music or the game if you want on your VHF. Always a good backup to listen to the game. Another feature that I like of this particular radio, and you need to consider on other radios, is as I switch through channels, it actually tells me what that particular channel is for, which is very, very handy. I'm not going to be transmitting on a channel I shouldn't be if I don't know these numbers. All of these radios are going to require an MMSI number. This particular one will not transmit until you enter that number. That's because they want to know who this is who's transmitting on this in an emergency situation. I will explain in another video, an upcoming video, on how to obtain that MMSI number. In short, before you see that video though, if you need to, you can get it through Coast Guard Auxiliary, you can get it through the Boat US website, and you can also get it directly from the FCC. It's one MMSI number per vessel. So if you have a fixed mount radio on the boat already and it has an MMSI number, that's the number you would apply to this. If you have an unregistered vessel, because you do need vessel registration with some of those to get your MMSI, you can get it directly through the FCC without a vessel registration if you're using it for kayaking, for example, that kind of thing. All VHF is line of sight, so wherever the top of this antenna can see is where you're going to broadcast to. The higher you get with this radio on board, the more range you're going to get. Realistically, with a radio like this transmitting at 5 or 6 watts, which is 6 is the most allowed by the FCC, and that's what this radio transmits at. Realistically, you're looking about 5 to 7 miles, maybe 9 miles, depending how high up you are on the boat. So if you can see it, you can talk to it. Fixed mount VHFs, they got a little bit more transmit power. They generally have a external antenna that's going to be taller, and the taller that antenna is, the more range you'll get. There are some different factors that vary and increase your range. The dB, which is the transmit pattern of the antenna, and we'll get into that when we talk about fixed mount radios and different antennas for that, but the dB gain is going to affect it, your transmit power is going to affect it, and the height of the antenna. But handheld VHFs, realistically, you're looking, like I said, anywhere from 5 to 9 miles. So if you figure you can see to the horizon, that's about where you're going to be transmitting to. If you're beyond the horizon and you're transmitting for help on a handheld radio, chances are boats nearby will hear your message, and that's why you should be monitoring 16 at all times when you have your VHF on. If you hear a distress call from someone, you need to forward that on to Coast Guard if you do not hear Coast Guard responding right away. Average fixed mount with an 8-foot antenna, you're looking more at 12 miles or beyond, again depending on the antenna, the height of the antenna, that kind of thing. But this will enable you to talk to other boats, to search and rescue, to the Coast Guard directly, and other marine law enforcement. It enables you to contact bridges and marinas directly, and it will give you communication in places where cell signal doesn't exist. So there you have it. Handheld VHF, as opposed to relying strictly on your cell phone, is an excellent idea. The best of all worlds is to have a fixed mount radio and a handheld VHF. That gives you the opportunity of having the greater power and the transmission range of a fixed mount, and the portability and the advantage of having a handheld in an emergency situation. So lots to consider. It seems a lot more complicated than it really is. The fact is, no matter what handheld radio you go with, if you are boating, kayaking, I highly recommend you have any kind of handheld VHF with you. It's an excellent means of communication when you're on the water, and sometimes when a cell phone is not going to work for you, you're in wet conditions, your phone dies, you don't have cell coverage, a handheld VHF could be your lifeline, and it could save your life. So if you're going to get any kind of VHF at all, or you're considering not getting a VHF, definitely consider, even if it's one of the inexpensive handhelds, get some kind of handheld and have it with you. It could be a lifesaver. We will have another video in the series coming up on selecting a fixed mount VHF, and we're going to talk about antennas and the other accessories and stuff that you need for that, and go over the features and advantages of fixed mount VHFs. So stay tuned for that. We are also going to have a video in the series on how to get an MMSI number, which you're going to need for any VHF radio. We'll go through the procedures and steps on how to do that. It's not as difficult as it seems, and we'll have a brief video showing how that can be done. So stay tuned for that. Well, if you like what you see, please hit the like and subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you'll know when the other videos are live. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here soon.